Let's talk today a little bit about staying organized as your child's best advocate. So whether your child has an IEP, 504 plan, or no intervention plan, and you just want to stay organized and know what's going on with your child, make sure they're making progress. We talked a lot about progress in a previous video. Let's talk about how you can stay organized as a parent. My name is Valerie. I'm a former special education teacher and administrator, and now I'm an educational advocate. And I can tell you, when I'm working with families, it is so much easier if they have some type of organized system that they have documents. Those documents are a lot of different things that we'll talk about in the course of this video, but it's really important to stay organized so that as you're asking questions or following up with the school about things, you have things you can reference. So why do I think you need a binder? Well, I think that you need a binder because there are so many things that just get lost in the daily shuffle of life. It's really hard sometimes, I think, as a parent to keep track of school on top of doctor's appointments and sporting events and birthday parties and all the different things you're doing as a parent, not to mention your own life. And so if you have things in one place, you can get it out of your mind, you know where to reference the information, and you know that you have it so that when it's needed, it's at your fingertips. And if listening to this makes you realize you would like to talk to a professional to get some help for your child's specific needs, you can click on the link in my description to schedule time to work with me and see how I can help and support your family. I also have a few other resources that are linked below. Having a binder will help you not only with whether it's IEP paperwork or 504 plans or other miscellaneous information that is discussing the progress and supports your child has, it also can help you just keep track of conversations, things that seem informal. Sometimes you can notice a pattern over time when you look at everything in one place. So it's really important to have it all gathered somewhere. That somewhere can be a 3-ring binder with tabs that organize it in the way that makes most sense for you, or it can be online in like a Google Doc. This is also really important if you're a family that moves. I know my family has moved a few times. By having records of most recent state testing, most recent report cards, it allows this new school, if they haven't received the full school file yet, to at least have a baseline of, okay, this is where the children were working previously. These are the classes we think are most appropriate for them at this time. If your child has an IEP or a 504 plan, your documentation can help keep communication smoother if you have it organized in one place. Sometimes there's a lot of back and forth information, and keeping it organized and together can help things stay collaborative as you have meetings for your child. So let's talk about things first that I think all binders should have, regardless of if your child has an IEP or 504 plan. We'll get to those in a minute. I think if your child is in a traditional school model or a charter school or a private school, you should have the following pieces of information. I think you should have their most recent assessments. So if it's a state test, the most recent state test you received. Some states do mid-year tests, so the most recent ones of those. If your district does benchmark testing, you might have received that information. I would keep that in the binder as well. That will help you to see progress over time. Again, previous video, which I've tagged below, will have that information, but also it helps you as the parent understand what the progress your child is making so that you know this is normal progress. Wow, my child is gaining a lot of skills, or is something going on. Things like report cards should be included. Even if your child's in middle school and there's not a lot of information, I'd keep a report card in there and just kind of stack them up. And then also any communication you're having with the school. So emails, a lot of schools use Parent Square or Class Dojo or other iterations of those. It's a way that teachers are communicating with the parents and the families. And you can sometimes screen capture that and print it out or store it electronically. I would do that. Sometimes there's quite a lot of information in there. Some teachers use Class Dojo to keep track of how often a certain behavior is happening or how often they are seeing a positive behavior that they want to capitalize on and encourage the student to do more of. So keeping that information is important. And then if your child has any incident reports, maybe they have some behaviors that they're working on and the school is helping them gain skills so that those behaviors are extinguished and they're able to better access their educational opportunities. But if there still might be some incident reports of when something has happened and the school needs to notify you. That's especially true if there's any type of restraint or seclusion. You want those incident reports in a very timely manner, very timely. That should be included as well. Sometimes the things that you're including in the file are uncomfortable and hard to look at, but it's important because it paints a holistic picture of your child. Sometimes there is attendance information that you can have. Maybe your district has an online system where you're able to look at your child's attendance. I would print that at least annually, just so that you have a track record of how often your child's going to school. If they were in-school suspension for some reason, maybe they had a referral and missed a period here and there. Sometimes that can add up over time. It's also good to keep track of attendance. More and more students are really having a hard time with school avoidance. And so if you start noticing a trend in that direction, hopefully you can intervene quickly and early so that it doesn't become a pattern that has to be undone. And then sometimes parents record meetings. If you've recorded a meeting, be it an IEP meeting, a 504 plan meeting, or just a meeting because you just get overwhelmed and you want to record the meeting, you can keep that audio file online as well. That's a little harder if you have a binder, a physical binder for your child, but you can still keep an online file folder with all of the recorded meetings in there. You'd want to keep that all in one place, because the last thing you want when you're overwhelmed and trying to get ready to go in for a meeting is to struggle looking for all the information. If your child has any outside medical reports, maybe you've had them evaluated for ADHD or autism or something else, maybe they've had an occupational therapy evaluation or a speech and language evaluation, maybe they've been evaluated for dyslexia or another learning disability outside of school for some reason, you would want to keep that in your binder as well. Even though it might not be a school piece, maybe you didn't submit the entire thing or any of it to the school, keep it with the school information, because whatever that outside piece is, it's probably affecting your child in school as well. So keeping it together will help you kind of stay organized as you think about the supports that you might need to advocate for your child. Let's talk about what to include if your child has a 504 plan. If your child has a 504 plan, I would include as many years of the 504 plan as you can. So if you just have this year and the last couple years, include those, and know going forward that you're going to add every new 504 plan to your binder, either electronically or in print form. You want to keep track of those because you want to look at changes over time, and you want to make sure that it's being completed correctly. Sometimes if the forms change or you move districts, you want to be able to compare against a previous 504 plan that you had agreed to. The 504 plan should be complete. There should be nothing left blank. Sometimes things are left blank and entered in the meeting and then you're given the wrong copy. Make sure you get the right copy. It's a good chance to review everything, make sure you don't have any questions, and then put it all together in one space. If you have all of your child's 504 plans, awesome, include them all into the binder. I do think there is value in seeing progress over time and how your child's needs have been met differently over the different years that those 504 plans have been in place for your child. A 504 plan does not need to be updated every single year. While it is best practice, in my opinion, to update it annually, children are dynamic, they change a lot. Being able to review their needs on an annual basis, I think, is really important, but it's not required by law. So if you're missing a year, it doesn't mean that you missed a year on the 504 plan, it just means it wasn't done. But you can ask for a 504 plan to be updated annually, and then you just want to make sure to include that in the binder. Let's talk IEP plans and what should be included in the binder for them. This is where binders can get really, really big, especially depending on how long your child has been receiving services. So I would recommend, and I don't want to overwhelm any parent, so if you don't have some of these things, that's okay. We're going to keep things moving forward, and these are the big items I think you want to make sure you have for your binder. Either the initial or the most recent 3-year reevaluation. Those are called different things in different parts of the United States. So I would just say the first evaluation that was completed to see if your child was eligible to receive services, and then the 3-year reevaluation. One of those. If you have both of those, fantastic, include both. The current IEP should for sure be included. Hopefully you have a copy of the previous year's IEP as well, and you can include that as well. Having IEPs over time is really useful, and I will say as an advocate, I have gone back several years when parents have that information, but it's not required. It just kind of helps me as a professional paint a more holistic picture of the progress that children are making. But if you just have the last couple of years and the big evaluation report, you're in good shape. If you realize you don't have this year's IEP, you can reach out to the case manager and let them know you'd like a copy. You can let them know you'd like a print copy of that or an electronic copy, whichever one works better for you and your family's needs, and then start assembling your file, either online in a Google Drive or in a print binder. That's not all. You're also going to want to make sure you include any prior written notices that you've received. You want to include assessment plans that you've signed. If you've had transition meetings, Maybe your child went from one program to another. Maybe they went from a preschool program to a kindergarten program, or if they went from middle school to high school and needed a transition meeting and you have paperwork for that, include that. If your child has had an amendment IEP, you want to include that information as well. You also want to include any behavior things that you have for your child. So if your child has had an FBA, which is a functional behavioral assessment, you'd want to include that. If your child has a behavior intervention plan, you want to include that. And if your child has a behavior support plan, which is different than a behavior intervention plan, but they both address the needs of supporting skills around your child's behavior, target behaviors, you want to include that as well. If you receive weekly updates as part of the IEP, either for behavior or for skills or for any other reason, you want to include that information in the binder. So if you're getting weekly updates, I would include those papers. And then goal updates. You want to include the goal updates that you're receiving throughout the year in the binder. You can also include it because it should be included in the next year's IEP, but I do find that some of the families that I've supported, they receive one thing when it's goal update time, but then it looks different at the next goal update time. So I think it's good to include in real time what you as the parent have been receiving as far as goal progress for your child. I've talked about what to include for all students. I also broke it down if your child has a 504 plan and if your child has an IEP. I think you should have all of that information either in a print binder or a Google Drive or another method that you trust so that it's easy for you to access. It also really helps if you ever do need to bring in an advocate or an outside professional to help with what's going on and support your child with their educational access and opportunities in school. And then you want to update this regularly. So you took all of that time to put everything together. You want to make sure that you're updating it on, I would say, a quarterly basis. I think those are really great times to take a minute to step back, see how things are going, include what you can, and then make sure that it's staying updated. I cannot overemphasize how much as an advocate I value being able to access my clients' big binders. And more than once in a meeting, I have pulled a binder towards me and flipped back and been able to reference something that made a big difference for a student. So don't underestimate the importance of a binder. I do have a free guide that I've put in the description that you can grab that can help you out. I also have a few other links that you can check out, and I'd love to hear how you stay organized with your child's paperwork. Let me know in the comments.